Hello everyone, welcome to this review of the Thor quarter scale statue by XM Studios. I just got this piece a few days ago. I already did an unboxing of him, so if you haven't already checked that out, you should definitely go ahead and do so. I'll leave a link somewhere in this video. So yeah, I got this piece. I pre-ordered him last year, and for a long time I've actually been quite skeptical towards this piece because I saw some early images and all that, and I wasn't entirely convinced by what I was seeing. I think that was mainly due to the colors of this piece. Now I know that he's of course he's sporting the original color palette of Thor and the original classic suit and everything, so I can't really flaw that. But there was just something about it that seemed very bland and boring somehow. But I decided to stick with my pre-order, and I can say today that I'm very happy that I decided to do that, because this is a very, very impressive statue. One of the things that makes him extremely impressive in my opinion is the pure size of him, because he's actually very, very big for a quarter scale statue. Throughout this video, or maybe I'll throw in a picture now actually, you'll be able to see some comparison shots of this piece next to some of my other statues, and you'll realize that he's actually very big for a quarter scale statue. And I think that is one of the things that makes this statue kind of interesting somehow, and an interesting addition to mostly any collection that might be out there. I'm just gonna do a 360 so you get a glimpse of this piece from all angles to begin with. And what I'm going to do in this review is what I usually do, and that is to kind of zoom in on the upper section, the middle section, and then the lower section, including the base, and just go over some of the details of the sculpt, the paint, and just, well, try and go through the main points about this piece. But I have to say, and I feel that I need to stress that one of the most impressive aspects is, as I've been saying, the scale or the size of the statue. And I'm just going to hold up my hand here like that, and as you can see, well, I have a relatively large hand because I'm a big boy. And so as you can see, my hand is kind of looking small here next to Thor, when you keep in mind that this is a quarter scale statue. So yeah, it's really impressive, and I'm quite convinced that this piece would make for a beautiful and great centerpiece in most collections. But that's something that I'm going to talk more about later on in this review. So for now, let me just move right ahead, and let's try and zoom in on the face and the upper section and have a closer look at what's going on there, because we do actually have some interesting swap out pieces that I think that we should talk about. And these are the two portraits that you can actually put on instead of the one that's on now. And as you can see, there are obvious differences here. So I'm just gonna try and equip those and just give my impression of them and all that. So hang on, sit back and enjoy the rest of this review. Alright, so here we are a bit more up close to the upper section with the portraits and everything. And as you can see, I have the helmeted version of Thor here, and he's got the beard. And this is definitely my favorite of the three available options for this statue. The helmet, because I find that it is a very iconic piece of equipment or aspect of this character. It kind of defines him as an Asgardian or a Viking-like character, so I find that very nice. And the beard, well, I just feel that he seems more old and more, again, Viking-like when he's got the beard and everything. So I definitely prefer this head over the two others, but I must stress that I feel that all the three available heads are actually very, very nice. In terms of paint, well, you can tell that he's got this nice shading and nuances going on in the hair, and it really flows well and looks very beautiful actually. And if I turn him around, you can see on the back again how the hair is flowing, and you can also see just the massiveness of of the cape here, actually, how it's rising above his shoulders and falling down back. But the hair here, you can see there are highlights and shading going on. It's actually very nicely painted, and it's just a very clean finish. There's nothing, there's no debris or some nasty dirt or anything going on here in terms of the sculpt or anything. It's very clean and perfect, and that's the feeling and the impression that you get from looking at it. The wings, I don't know how well you can tell the wings here of the helmet, but they are also nicely detailed, slight shading and highlights going on there as well. And the helmet, of course, has this metallic finish to it, and everything is just very clean and tight. The paint application overall for this piece is very tight. So I must say that the factory who did this statue here did an amazing job in terms of a production piece, actually. Also the eyes and the face, well, there's a nice shade and nuance going on the skin, and the beard, of course, is also nicely shaded and everything. And the eyes seem to be perfectly aligned, and they have this blue color, I think. Yeah, they are blue eyes, and they're looking slightly up to the side, and it just looks amazing. I think the head sculpts of this piece, in my opinion, is one of the main selling points. Now I'm gonna swap out the heads for the other two, so you just get a quick glimpse of those as well. So I'm just gonna go right ahead and do that. And it fits in, as you can see here, with a magnet as well as in this socket here. And the magnet is very strong, so it fits on perfectly. So the first head is this one. And that's basically the same one as the one we just had on. The only main difference is, of course, that he's not wearing the helmet here. And that's basically what you get here. The hair is flowing in the same way as with the helmeted version. I'm just gonna hold it up next to it, so as you can see here. It looks very, very nice. Can you see that? I hope so. It looks very nice, and it's a nice option, but I do prefer the helmet on. So I'm just gonna also put on the third head, which is this one. And some would probably call this the young head, maybe, because he looks younger. Most people look younger when they're not having full beards. He's probably the same age, though. But again, this is, as you can see, the main difference here is that he simply doesn't have a beard. But there's also the hair, which is flowing differently. As you can see, it's more going towards the back. Again, if you can tell here. The hair is flowing way differently here, and that's all actually a nice detail. And they did a great job of supporting different hair flows on top of this statue, because of course we have the cape going on and everything, but everything is perfect. And as you can see, the hair also flows differently here on the back. I actually also very much like this portrait because it adds a bit more character. You can tell all his facial features, so you get a more strong feeling of what he looks like. And then he just looks younger, and well, you have lots of artwork of Thor on the internet and everywhere. And sometimes he's got the beard, sometimes he's shaven. So it's a very nice addition and option that you have these three heads here. But for the rest of this video, I'm gonna put on my favorite one. Which is again this one. If you saw my unboxing, I was struggling a bit with the wings of the helmet. I didn't notice as I was unboxing that they were actually they were numbered, so they had 1s and 2s going on for each set. And I think I don't actually remember which head is 1 and 2, but if I had been a bit more aware when I was unboxing, I would have been able to tell immediately which set of wings were supposed to go on one particular head. But in the end, I seemed to be able to fit on the wings quite nicely, I think, at least. They are a bit leaning to the right now, but I think they're supposed to do that. I'm not really sure, though. I haven't really actually gotten around to studying other images from other collectors of this piece. But I think it looks fine in any case, because it looks a bit more organic when they're not just 100% symmetrical anyways. Alright, so basically I think to just sum up very quickly, the facial portraits here are very, very solid. They are very, very nicely done, and they are definitely selling points of this statue in my opinion. I think they were made by Eric Sosa. I'm not really sure, but I do believe that he was part of XM as an art director at some point, and that he did the portraits for this statue. And if that is the case, and I think it is, because the heads here are just perfect. They are of a very, very high quality. So yeah, I think that's basically enough about the heads now. I feel that I've been talking forever already, and we have a lot of other ground that we need to cover. So let's just move on. Oh yeah, before we do that, his hammer, which is basically this. He's got one in his left hand now, and it's the same one as the one he's got in the right hand. I'm gonna throw in a picture. Nothing much to say about it. It looks nice. It has leather details. It has the iconic important text that says, "Whosoever holds the hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor." It's nicely detailed. The surface looks like rock. It looks like a genuine original hammer. Not too many bells and whistles and everything. It just looks very simple but authentic somehow, and that's really nice, I think. Alright, let's have a look at the middle section now of this statue, and check out the sculpt, the paint, the details and everything. So just hang on. Alright, so here we are looking at the middle section of this statue, and again I'm just gonna hold up my hand like this so you can see how big he is. He's just really a massive piece, I feel. Now the color pattern or scheme here is actually very true to the comic books. So you have this black suit on his chest and body, you have the blue color on his legs, and then you have the very bright red cape of him. The belt, by the way, is of a more golden like a gilded leather belt, along with a gilded belt buckle here. And then of course you have these silvery discs, metal discs on his black suit. And you can see that now, but he also has those yellow leather straps around his boots, but we're going to get to those later on. So everything here is actually very true to the comic book appearance of him, and I feel that that is actually very nice, because that's definitely the source material that I prefer when it comes to statues. I do like some movie pieces, but in my personal opinion, the comic book inspiration has a stronger weight, or just a feeling of story, and that's just what the character is supposed to look like. Lots of movie designs also look very cool, but I find that they don't last as long as the kind of timeless comic book appearance of these pieces. So that's why I really like what's going on here on this Thor statue as well. I'm just gonna do a 360 once again, so you can see the details of the cape also. The cape is extremely big, and as you can see here, I'm gonna hold up my hand again. It's a massive piece. It's probably the biggest cape, and I think it's almost bigger than the one that my Batman premium format has on, if you've seen that. So this is extremely impressive. It has a bright red color, along with nice shading going on in all the canyons along the flow of this big piece here. It feels like a solid sculpt also, so it's quite heavy, and it just feels like a quality piece, and that's really nice. And let me continue turning him. The skin tones, let's talk a bit about those. I think the skin tones is one of the things that initially turned me off just a bit when I saw those early photos of this piece. He does also sport this very flat and almost grayish color, but it is really more towards a natural skin tone, but it is a bit gray-ish somehow. I don't know really how to explain it more than that. It actually looks realistic, so I would argue that this piece somehow, in a strange way, manages to combine the well, the comic book appearance along with a sense of realism. And that's a really nice contrasting element here. But it actually makes this piece feel like it kind of walks between two worlds, the comic books and then a more realistic take on Thor. And that's really nice, I think. And again, the skin tones, well, and also the skin or the body sculpt here in general, you have these very thick veins going on along the arms that really makes him feel or seem strong and powerful. And of course also just the size of his arms is just very incredible, really. Yeah, you can see that. One thing that I would like to comment here is along all the veins of his arms and also up on his neck here, the veins have this kind of greenish or bluish tint to them. And of course that is supposed to look like blood that is flowing through his veins, of course. But I would probably have preferred if the skin would have maintained the same color everywhere, even on top of the veins that are going on here. Because if you go a bit too much overboard with making the veins too greenish or bluish, he's gonna look like he's been poisoned, actually. And it just doesn't look that healthy, really. And I think that when you see very muscular people and they have these very big veins like here, I don't think they're blue or discolored or anything. I think you just have them protruding from the skin, kind of, and then you have shadows because of that unevenness of the skin. So I think it would have been better to just stick with the same color going on all the way around his arms and just let the light that is reflected on the skin do the job of telling or showing the veins. That's basically my only comment. I think everything else seems perfect, and all the blacks and all the silvers here are just perfectly applied to the areas that they are supposed to go on. There's nothing really, there's not much paint bleeding going on or anything. Maybe just a bit here where the skin tone meets the black, where you have an overlap of the skin that goes up a bit up here. You see that on my Thanos statue as well, but it's very, very minute, so it's nothing that really matters, I think. Basically, I feel that this is a very, very high level of quality in terms of a production piece. So I'm very impressed here. And overall, the sculpt, perfect, I think. Very muscular, very big. I can't really flaw it for that much because it does seem kind of perfect in my opinion. By the way, when I applied the cape, I had to apply a bit of force in order to push it all the way down into its position. If you check out my unboxing, you will see that these, where the cape is supposed to hang from his body, is a bit higher up because I didn't at that time push it all the way down. It's a very tight fit, so once it's there, it doesn't move or anything. Again, it gives you this feeling of quality, but it did take me a bit of force in order to push it all the way down, but it did fit in perfectly in the end. Alright, once again I feel that I've been talking forever, so let me focus on the lower section, including the base, and we'll be able to move on from here. So just hang on. Okay, so here we are looking at the lower section of the statue, which are the legs, the boots, and the base. And as you can see on the base, I actually have the little coin as well as the display stand for it. I'm probably going to display it like that. I showed you the coin in my unboxing. It's just this silver coated coin with the Avengers logo on one side, and then you have Thor on the other side. It's almost like an exclusive little edition, like Sideshow has a regular edition, and then they have an exclusive edition of most of their statues or premium formats. But I do believe actually that this is the last time that XM Studios are going to offer a coin with one of their statues. I think Thor was the very last one. I don't really know the reason for it. Maybe it was all the drama that kind of went with having a set of exclusive pieces and then a set of regular pieces unofficially. So they probably just want to make sure that every single piece of an edition has the same value and offers collectors the same value and everything. So that's why I think they are going to leave out coins in the future. So I'm just very pleased that I was able to actually get one with a coin, especially if it's actually the last time that they're going to do that. But it's nothing really that matters. Now if you look at the statue, well, you have the boots here with the iconic yellow color, and these are just kind of like the leather straps that are going around the legs here, and then you have the boots down here. You have a nice contrasting color between the yellow and the blacks. It looks very, very nice, and it actually looks realistic somehow. And again, I think that is one of the things about this piece that is interesting, how it kind of merges the comic book feel with a more realistic feel. I think that is actually very interesting, and that's what makes this piece stand out and makes it even more timeless somehow and iconic, and just a very well-rounded representation of Thor, the Thor character. If we talk about the base, there are some points that are very interesting about the base. First and foremost, he's standing on this piece of pavement or something that has some debris in the back here. It's very simple really, there's not really much to say about it. It's about maybe 30-40 centimeters in thickness if you look at the very bottom to the surface here. But there's not really much to say about it. It's rather simple really. The debris in the back is nicely sculpted and painted, but I don't feel that I need to say much about it. One thing that's interesting is this piece here, which I also mentioned in my unboxing. It fits on with a magnet on top of the upper debris part here. The point of this piece is to kind of add an extra support if you are displaying the statue with the wielding hand. As you can see here, I'm just gonna hold it like this. This is a switch out for his right arm or hand that has the hammer going around, and if you look here, it's gonna rest. I think it's this one that's gonna rest on the surface here. So it's just a means of kind of securing the piece when you're displaying it and making sure that it's not gonna fall off, because if it wasn't for this piece here, it would basically only be hanging from the magnet up in the wrist of the statue. I don't know if it's in the frame now, but I think you know what I mean. If we turn it around, well, you can of course see all the debris and everything. And let me just check very quickly if this is sharp, because I want to say something now. I think it's almost sharp. In any case, I'm just gonna quickly talk, and I'm sure that you'll understand. If you look here, there's a piece protruding from the base here, and as I can see here, it actually has a metal wire inside, so it's actually secured with a rod. I think it actually is visible here, which I don't know if that is the meaning, or if maybe, well, something happened and a very small piece broke off. I don't really know. But the point is, because we have this huge cape hanging down, which is relatively heavy, I think XM, from a design perspective, decided to add some support also for the cape. Similar to what they did for the hammer wielding hand, this piece here actually supports the cape as well. So if you're positioning the cape into the shoulders of the statue, it's gonna go all the way down, and then it's gonna land down here. So you actually have an additional support for the cape. And that's going to matter in the long run, I think, because that means that the piece isn't going to face any significant leaning issues or anything. Maybe they actually experienced that during their production phase, that the cape was too heavy, too big for the piece, so that it would be leaning in the long run. So they added this extra bit of support, and that's really nice because it kind of puts your mind at ease that nothing will happen when you have this piece displayed over a longer duration. But I think that basically was all that I wanted to say here, because there isn't that much going on. Everything looks nice. You have these leather sculpt here, also on the knee pads actually, this leather feeling material, which is of course fully sculpted. Simple colors, nice details on the base, but a simple base still. But it looks nice and everything. What they could have done maybe instead of this base, could have been, you know, when Thor kind of teleports in, you have these runes going on in a circle on the ground. They could have maybe done something with that, add a bit of a reference or some historical artifact thingies, hieroglyphs, runes, of course, not hieroglyphs, he's Asgardian. Some runes, something just to add to the overall theme here. But instead they went with a functional base that has extra support, which is of course, in my opinion, more important. And you have the battle debris that is expected when it comes to a superhero like this. You see that with some of my other pieces like Punisher, my Captain America premium format, and other pieces. So I think the base functions, it's nice, it's nothing special. It seems like it more serves a functional purpose with the support and everything, rather than contributing that much to the overall theme and expression of the piece. But it does its job very well, in my opinion. Alright, let me zoom out now and I'll just wrap up this review, add a few more images and everything. And I'm also going to, of course, show you just very quickly the alternative display options. That is the other displaying pieces, at least some of them. I think I'm not gonna bother with the big this one, because it does take a bit more effort to install that one, but just the simple ones. And then I'm going to wrap up this review, so hang on. Okay, before I say anything else, I would like to say thank you if you've been watching this video non-stop so far. I just realized as I was recording these clips how long I'm actually taking with this review. So let me just express my gratitude if you made it this far without skipping. And if you did skip to this part, well, I don't blame you, because I do realize that I'm talking quite a lot. I think it's because that it's been quite a long time since I actually did a statue review, so maybe I'm a bit out of practice, or maybe you prefer me talking even more, in which case good for you. I think I'm just gonna do it like the way that I feel comfortable with it, and I do feel that I have a lot to say about this particular statue, so I guess that's the reason. Let me just put up the little coin there. And as I said just before, I promised that I was going to show you some of the swap out pieces. So for the sake of this video, I actually am gonna change the head just one more time, so you get the one without the beard. I might switch it again before the end. We'll find out. So again, this is the alternative portrait, and of course this is the third option, or this is the second one, and that is the third. I don't know, depends on how you make how you count that up. Now he can hold his hammer in his right arm, and you can just take off his hand like that, which is just a fist. It fits on with one of those magnets and into a socket, as we've seen it many times before. And then like this, you can just fit in his other hand. And as you can see, it looks a bit strange now. He's wielding two hammers, which doesn't really make sense. Maybe if you're kind of doesn't care, if you don't care about the lore or anything about this character and just think this looks cool, you could actually go ahead and display him like this. And you can switch out his left hand with one that is pointing. As I've said before, I'm not a big fan of pointing fingers. I find them to look a bit too cheesy, Uncle Sam kind of displaying way here. I don't really like it that much. It looks a bit cheesy, I think, but it kind of also works because the overall piece is just so impressive and it looks so convincing that it actually works, because everything just kind of works for this piece somehow. But I would probably prefer displaying him like I had him before, with his hammer in his left hand and just a fist down here in his right. Now, One issue actually that I forgot to mention earlier on in this video, if I take off this hand here, now on the inside of this socket here, I don't know if it's this one or one of the other ones, you of course have the red paint going on, and I've unfortunately experienced that this paint has been rubbing off against his wrist here on his skin. That's something that is very difficult to avoid, because once you're installing a hand, it's gonna kind of come in contact with this area here. So it's a bit unfortunate that there is this paint rub off here. It's very minute, so you probably won't notice and you definitely didn't notice this until now, and probably you can't even see it because I'm zoomed out so much. But there's some red paint here, and for some odd reason, some of the wristbands are different in depth. So if I have this one on, it will cover up the red paint. But if I have my favorite hand actually, which is this one, it won't go up and cover the red paint. I think the red paint is from when I had this piece here installed. So for some reason this goes up further than the other one. I'm not gonna install this piece, by the way. I'm just gonna hold it like this, so you get a sense of what it would look like if he's holding his hammer and whirling it around. But yeah, you get all these display options, and yeah, of course, just to sum up or end that one, the red paint is annoying, of course. I don't really see what else I can do than try and cover it up, maybe with some skin tone paint at some point. It won't rub off, at least I've tried to gently rub it off, and I failed doing so. But it doesn't really matter much to me because I don't really notice it that much, so I don't bother with it. It's still a very, very beautiful statue, I think. Let me just do a 360 again. So yeah, as I said in the very beginning also, this is a very, very big statue. It's big for its quarter scale size, but I think it makes sense because this is an Asgardian. He's not really human. He's like a god, kind of, a godlike character. So it makes sense to make him bigger than your typical human character. So in that regard, I think it makes fine sense that he's this big. And that makes him a very attractive piece, a centerpiece in my opinion. But it also makes it a bit more difficult to display him. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do in terms of displaying this piece. I think I'm going to swap around a bit, maybe take one piece out of my Besta display cases and then try and adjust a shelf or something and see if I can't find a good spot for him. As you probably realized by now, I do have a very limited amount of space available, so every time I get something new these days, I kind of have to make up my mind as to whether I want to let go of something or just radically changing something in my display. So yeah, I can't as freely acquire new statues these days, but I guess that's a good thing because then I kind of save a lot of money maybe. But as you can see in the back here, I have all these comic books, these Marvel omnibuses, which is something new that I started collecting last year, and that's also a very costly affair. So I guess it's a fine thing to step a little back from collecting statues, going a different path, doing videos of that also, and kind of doing more than just one thing. I do enjoy that really. Anyways, I really, really like this piece. I find that it mixes comic book feel with realism somehow in a way that really makes sense and lifts this piece to a whole new level. I love the genuine color scheme and just the very simple but classical look of this character here. And of course the main selling points are the portraits. All three of them are beautiful, amazingly sculpted, I think by Eric Sosa, and beautifully painted by the factory. The factory did really come through this time. They did an amazing job, I think. The size of him is impressive, the cape, the body, everything It's a very, very remarkable piece. So if you have it in your collection, it's definitely going to be a piece that people will want to go up to, have a closer look at it, because it's really something that grabs your attention. And of course, Thor is really a relevant and interesting character these days. We have him in the comic book still, but we also have him on the big screen. There's going to be a new movie out soon. I think it's going to be a road movie with with Thor and Hulk, and they actually just casted, I think it was Jeff Goldblum and Kate Blanchett. So maybe at this time when you're watching this video, the movie's already been out and we will know if it's a good or bad movie. But at this time, as I'm doing this recording, I'm just really excited because I haven't seen that yet. It's not been out yet, so I'm just really excited about it. Anyways, guys, this is my review of the Thor quarter scale statue by XM Studios. It's my fourth piece, I think, from XM Studios. I have Wolverine, Jean Grey, Thanos already, so now I have Thor also. I do have one more coming, I hope, which is Ghost Rider, but that's next year or something like that, far into the future. A lot might happen until then. But for now, I'm just a very, very happy and satisfied collector having this Thor finally in my collection. I never had a Thor in my collection. I only had his Mjolnir from EFX, the replica hammer. Now I finally have Thor as a statue in quarter scale, along with the rest of the Avengers that I have. So that is a very, very nice feeling. I'm gonna throw in a picture of that, I think, actually, even though it's gonna be a hassle getting them all out of my display and putting them up here. I think it's gonna be worth it because this piece deserves that kind of attention. Alright guys, I think I'm gonna wrap it up now because I know this video is far too long, and I'm sorry if that is a problem for you, but if you did enjoy it, I'm extremely thankful for that, and I hope you enjoyed every single minute of this review. If you have any comments, feedback or questions, of course go ahead and post them below. Subscribe to my channel, like this video, watch my other videos, leave me lots of comments, and yeah, that's it, I think. I also have a Facebook page, an Instagram. Go check those out as well. They're really interesting in my opinion. But yeah, for now, a big thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate that. And I'll see you guys in my next video.